Penn State beats Boise State. And we talked about this. The game plan was going to be go all in on limiting Ashton Jeanty, right? You had your choice. You could either kind of let him get his and hope that everybody else didn't beat you, and they absolutely did limit him. Outside of that 26-yard run on the 3rd and 21 draw play where they kind of just fell asleep, I mean, he just wasn't, I hate to take away from his great year.
Yeah, no, because honestly, you watch him, he's hard to take down. But he was their team. And so if you go all in on stopping him, they didn't have a whole lot of weapons outside of that, so I don't think it's a knock on him, right? Like if you double and triple team who you view as the best threat and then they just have no other threats, that's not a knock on the guy that is the threat. That's kind of a knock on everybody else, right?
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't expect like a Mountain West team to have 4 Ashton Jeantys, right? Like they could triple team, Jeremiah Smith in the next round, and okay, great, Will Howard will throw it to somebody else that's a 5-star, and so like in a Boise State type situation, he was going to have to be Superman times 4 to get it done. The play where they end up scoring, I think they hand it off to the fullback. He starts to run out wide, and literally 3 Penn State defenders go with him. And so they were playing 10 on 8, right?
Yeah.
If you math good. Yeah. And so they scored. But he was that's how much attention they were devoting to him was, that guy's running out wide as a decoy. We're still sending 3 guys with him.
Just in case.
Which was insane to see. And obviously SMU scored there. Second game in a row, you talk about this, but second game in a row where Penn State's defense has certainly played bend don't break. I wrote this. 12. Boise State had 12 and 13 play drives, and they came away with no points from those. They had an interception on one, and they had a missed field goal on the other. The interception came after a play got called back. It was a touchdown, but called back on a holding, and then they missed a field goal. Both those in the second half. This game did get close. It was competitive kind of late. Penn State's offense got going enough when it needed to. But second week in a row, I kind of thought, and I was maybe a little hard on Penn State last week because they were, we talk about the weather for the road team. It's still tough to throw the ball, even if you are the home team in 20-degree weather. But a lot of people thought Penn State's offense will get going here now that they're playing in a dome and it's climate controlled and Drew Aller will be really good. And I didn't think their offense was great again. And again, maybe Boise State and SMU have better defenses than I think. But I'm a little worried for Penn State going forward just because I don't think they've been as impressive as they needed to be. Now their defense did shut down Jeanty again. They devoted 3 or 4 guys to doing that. And so I don't know. I'm not sold on Penn State just yet.
Yeah. And can we talk about how many teams are going to be looking for a new field goal kicker from the playoffs? I feel like it's been atrocious. We saw that in this game. We saw it in the Arizona State game. I don't know. The missed field goals killed me. Did you see at the very beginning of the game when Boise State was running out with their flags, the guy that literally eats it, carrying the flag out? Oh my gosh. No. You have one job. You're running out of the tunnel with the team flag, so eyes are all on you, and he literally just eats it into the turf. You're going to have to look it up. It's kind of hilarious. But yeah, Boise State wasn't bad. Their offense is pretty one-dimensional. And so when that is shut down, they're having a hard time scoring points. But I felt like their defense actually played decently well.
Yeah. I mean, I thought their defense was fine. The Penn State scored kind of late to get it to 31, but it was 24-14. And those are the two. And that's when Boise State had the 2 at 24-14. That's when Boise State drove all the way down and the touchdown got called back. And I don't think it was a bad call or anything. I don't think it was like it's so obvious. Like I think it could have been let go, but whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like, it got called. If that doesn't get called or that hold doesn't happen, I didn't think it impacted the play. I'll say that. It's now all of a sudden 24 to 21. Yeah. And then the very next drive, Boise State goes down and misses a field goal. And then the very next drive, Boise State throws an interception. And so to me, it was just Boise State was doing some good things. Penn State's defense, I don't want to give them too much crap because they certainly play bend don't break. Kind of like we talked about with Texas. They let teams drive, and then when it gets restricted, they do a really good job of stepping up. And I don't credit them a ton for missed field goals, but when you are forcing interceptions, when you are forcing turnovers in the red zone, that, the defense is part of that, right? Where
Yeah.
it's so
Oh, yeah,
compacted.
for sure.
So I do think Penn State's, I will say this, as much as I'm not necessarily sold on Penn State, like if I had to, somebody asked like, who's your pick to win it? I mean, I'd say Ohio State in this moment, but
Mhm.
if you have like your rankings as like Ohio State 1, Texas, Georgia, kind of at that second level, I
Yep.
probably have Notre Dame right next, and then Penn State, maybe just
Yeah.
a smidge under them. We'll see though. Notre Dame, Penn State, maybe right in that same tier. But the way that Penn State plays with really good defense and a really good rushing attack, I think will keep them in probably
In
every game. Like
Yeah.
that's just they're not going to play a lot of high scoring games. Like I'm giving them a hard time for scoring 31 points. Yeah, he still scored 31 points, right? Like that's going to win a lot of games. Maybe
Sure.
not against Ohio State, but they played well enough to win. And again, how much did they need to go all out and show everything they've got? So there's some nuance to it. I don't want to just crap
Yeah.
on Penn State. I think the way they play, like if they play, we talked about this when we previewed Notre Dame, Georgia. I think Kirby loves the fact that he's going to be in a running and defense game against Notre Dame. Well, if he wins that, he's going to be in another one, a running and defense type game. And I think Kirby's
Yeah.
certainly got the advantage there, but I don't think Georgia, if they win tomorrow, I don't think Georgia beats Penn State by 21. Like
Right.
they might win by
Right.
10, but I
Yeah.
don't think that unless Gunner comes out and is just like dropping dimes everywhere and we see something really crazy from their offense. I mean, I think Penn State's going to be in that game against whoever they
Sure.
play. And then they'll probably run into a buzzsaw in the national championship, whoever wins that one. But yeah, I mean, I feel like they're going to be right in it
Yeah.
because of the way they play. And so
Yeah.
I'm giving them a hard time. They could very easily not very easily, but they could certainly still make the national championship. I'm not writing them off just yet. We need to figure out what the heck Georgia's going to be with the backup.
Yeah. I mean, and again, we're going to get to see that game as of right now tomorrow at 4 o'clock. And yeah, I'm really interested. I need to know more about this Notre Dame team, which I think obviously we'll get the opportunity to see what they're made of because of Georgia, but I really need to see what Gunner's made of, and I really need to see how this team performs as when he's their leader for the whole 60 minutes.
And we talked about this, right? Like that's the biggest question.
Yeah.
If he plays well, they're probably going to win. If
Yeah.
he doesn't, they're probably,
Yeah.
I mean, like it's that
Yeah.
simple, right? Like Georgia is still maybe the second best roster in college football, right?
Yeah.
I think they're probably slightly behind Ohio State right now, especially considering the quarterback. Sure. But I do think that they're not nearly as good as they have been previously. And I don't know that they're good enough to overcompensate for him playing a bad game.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Georgia 3 years ago probably was, 2 years ago,
Sure.
maybe even last year. I don't know that they're good enough to overcompensate
This
for
year.
him just having 2 turnovers
Yeah.
or something like that. Now, if Riley Leonard has 2 turnovers, then it evens back out.
Balances out. Yeah.
Um,
Can we talk about the fact that teams with a bye so far are 0-3 in the playoffs?
well, how much again, maybe the nuance there is that we don't really think
You have a
that,
stupid way of coming up with who gets the bias.
yeah, like I think now I'll say this. I think Arizona State and Boise State deserve to be in, and that has nothing to do with the way they played.
Sure.
Like I'm
No,
not a big
competing
fan.
doesn't necessarily make sense.
I'm not a big fan of saying like, oh, this team played poorly, they should be left out, right? Because
Right.
then if you're going to do that for Indiana, then you need to do that for Tennessee. If you're going to do that
Sure.
for SMU, then you need to look at Oregon, right? Like whatever, right? Like
Sure.
just because you play a really like if Oregon and Ohio State played again right now, I don't think they lose by as much, right? Like I think they played, Ohio State played really well tonight. So
Yeah.
all that said, like I think Arizona State and Boise State deserve to be in the playoff.
Yeah.
I don't understand a situation where you say these are our 9th and 10th best teams. Let's give them the 3 and 4 seeds. Like, in what world does that make sense?
Right.
And the NFL kind of does something similar. Somebody brought that up to me on Twitter. The Bucks if they win on Sunday, the Bucks are going to be like 9 and 5, and they're going to host a team that's got 11 or 12 wins. And so the NFL kind of does something similar, although there is more parity in conferences. Winning conferences matters more, but like they're going to host a team that is got 3 or 4 more wins than them.
Can you
And so
imagine?
that's kind of dumb to me. The more I think about it, I think it's dumb. Now I'm going to the Bucks game, so I'm happy about it. But like I think that's kind of stupid. I like the way the NBA does it. You win your conference or your division or whatever, and they just rank you 1 through 8 in the NBA and the NHL and stuff like that. So I don't know. I think the way that college is going to fix it.
Yeah. Well,
But
think about like had Oregon State, let's say they intentionally lost the Big Ten championship game, would have rearranged how games were a little bit. They potentially would have gotten Clemson and then Arizona State as theirs if,
Penn
seeding
State, Penn
changes
State. Yeah.
if Oregon lost. Yeah.
Oregon.
So,
Sorry. Yeah.
but instead, yeah, if Oregon had intentionally lost, but instead Oregon rests for 3 weeks at this point and gets the second place team who, got to cut their teeth against a cupcake in Tennessee week 1, right? Like it's that we've talked about this a lot on the show, and we know that they will change how this goes moving forward because it hasn't worked in practice like they thought it would in theory or whatever. But it is just wild to think that had Oregon lost, they would probably still be in this.
Yeah. No, I mean, for sure. Yeah, I think they would have won their first 2 games. Who would they play? SMU and then Boise State. Yeah, it's hard for me to imagine that either one of those teams beat them. And then I think they would still have a really good chance against whoever came out of that side. That Georgia Notre Dame matchup.
Would that have even happened though? I thought if they would have changed the rankings some, they potentially could have played Clemson.
Oh.
But either way, so let's say they play.
Oh
They
yeah, would
play
they have been
Clemson and
fifth
then
instead of
Arizona. Yeah,
Texas?
they probably would have played Clemson and then Arizona
Yeah.
State.
So they'd be in
And
there.
then
They'd be playing Ohio State now. Like we'd have a
yeah,
dud of a semifinal.
but they would have made it to the semifinals.
Yeah.
Had they lost.
I'm glad that didn't happen because I think Texas plays them better.
Yeah. Hey guys, we appreciate you so much tuning into a peek inside SEC football. If you enjoyed the content, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss any new content heading your way. We are live every Sunday evening and we would love to have you join us.